What's up, Taiwan? I'm Rik Glauert with 10 minutes of news from here in Taiwan and around the world. We begin with the U.S. Taiwan Defense Industry Conference in Washington, D.C. It's ended with experts calling for further joint military cooperation between the two sides.
We need much more substantive training in the U.S. Taiwan relationship, and that is going to happen. We're not quite sure how it's going to look, but as time progresses, we're going to see far more communication and training between the two sides, and that's a great development.
According to a report in the New York Times, American officials are looking to build a, quote, giant stockpile of weapons in Taiwan so that the island could defend itself if China blockaded it before an invasion. The Times says the US is deciding what weapon systems are most appropriate, with a preference for smaller, more mobile arms that have proven effective in Ukraine. Tensions are mounting on the Korean peninsula, with North Korea firing 2 short-range ballistic missiles into waters near Japan. It is the 6th ballistic missile test Pyongyang has conducted in the past 2 weeks. The launch came just hours after the United States and South Korea wrapped up joint military drills. North Korea's foreign ministry issued a statement on Thursday. They described the redeployment of the Reagan Strike Group as a serious threat to stability. But Japan's defense minister says it's Pyongyang that is escalating tensions.
北朝鮮は特に今年に入ってからかつてない高い頻度で、かつ新たな対応でのミサイル発射を繰り返しております。ここ数日も立て続けに弾道ミサイルを発射しており、9月末からの短期間でも6回目と挑発を執拗かつ一方的にエスカレートをさせています。一連の北朝鮮の行動は我が国地域及び国際社会の平和と安全を脅かすものであり、断じて容認できません。
Let's head back to Taiwan now, where there's less than 2 months to go before Taiwan's local elections, and the campaigning is heating up, especially in the central region, which is dominated by the KMT. But, as Rik Glauert reports, Taiwan's ruling Democratic Progressive Party is hoping to change that.
Dissent in the ranks. In central Taiwan, the incumbent opposition Kuomintang Miaoli magistrate has publicly supported an independent candidate. Xu Yaozang is not up for re-election, but the KMT's Miaoli office has recommended expelling him from the party.
有中央的考绩会再来做出决议，那当然也会参酌过去的相关的案例哈。那因为他毕竟不是本人违纪参选，这个情节是跟本人违纪参选是不太一样的。
The top political post in Miaoli has never been held by the ruling Democratic Progressive Party, and all 5 cities and counties in central Taiwan are currently led by the KMT. But the DPP is hoping to make headway in the region, with the country's president, who also serves as the party's chair, leading the calls for change.
过去4年，许多中台湾的乡亲都感到地方建设是停滞了，社会福利是缩水了，年轻人口是外流了。 所以我们这一次要翻转中台湾。
But even with the president's backing, that is likely to be an uphill battle. The KMT swept the region in the last elections. Andy Xue and Rik Glauert for TaiwanPlus.
A growing number of private schools are shutting down because Taiwan's low birth rate is leaving them without enough students. John Van Triest has this story.
Shutting its doors permanently. When the Fortune Institute of Technology was founded in 1989, higher education in Taiwan was starting to boom. Getting a degree became the new norm, and private schools like this popped up across the country to meet demand. But that bubble has long since burst. And with the fertility rate declining since the 80s, and now the lowest in the world, Taiwan is left with too many universities, and not nearly enough students to fill them. Here at Fortune, only 38 remain. Fortune is one of 7 private colleges and universities the government is decommissioning. Admissions stopped last year, and the school will close next year, with remaining students and faculty to be moved elsewhere.
明年的4月前，将他们相关的这些学分等能够完成他就会在原校来毕业。那对于因为还在其他年度来就学的同学，那我们目标是在这个寒假调查学生的意愿。
And it isn't just private universities shutting down. Private high schools and trade schools are also struggling with low enrollment. The head of the K-12 Education Administration, Peng Fuyuan, thinks more than 20 could be shuttered, but that figure could be higher, and the Union of Private School Educators is calling for more transparency.
让社会知道学校的办学状况以免考生再误入这个地雷学校。
The committee in charge of decommissioning schools has yet to make a decision about how many more schools will be shut down. But as Taiwan's population declines, the closure of schools is a trend that can only accelerate. Damon Lin and John Van Trieste for TaiwanPlus.
The production value of Taiwan's semiconductor industry is expected to grow this year. That's despite slumping global demand for high-tech devices. The Ministry of Economic Affairs says the country's chip sector production value was $65 billion in the first 7 months of 2022. That's compared to $90 billion for the whole of 2021. The ministry says demand for top-end computing devices and automobile electronics is driving the boom. With Taiwan facing rising military pressure from China, the country's reliance on imported fuel is coming under scrutiny. In part 2 of our special series on energy, Powering Taiwan, I asked what Taiwan is doing to make sure it can keep the lights on. This is Linkou Power Plant on the northwest coast of Taiwan's main island. It produces nearly 5% of the country's power and runs off imported coal, which isn't the only energy source Taiwan imports. Ports like these see the arrival of coal, oil, natural gas and nuclear fuel, supplying Taiwan's 26 power plants and producing more than 90% of the country's fuel. If the country lost access to these sources, it could soon struggle to keep the lights on. It's a scenario now being seriously considered, since neighbouring China has ramped up threats to invade Taiwan and conducted drills that appeared to test their ability to blockade the island. These 6 areas are where China's People's Liberation Army, or PLA, conducted live fire exercises in August. And these are Taiwan's major ports.
I think the first thing is that Taiwan is an island surrounded by the ocean. So look at, ocean. If you blocked by the PLA, by its missile, by its vessels, by its airplanes, that that means that the island is really kind of isolated. That's very, very difficult. So like what I say, perhaps we have to preserve as much as we can right before the war starts.
Taiwan's government hopes to spend an unprecedented $19 billion on defense in 2023 as it pursues asymmetric warfare, tactics to deter attacks from a much larger foe.
To ensure the safety of our shipping lanes in wartime, our Sea Navy will dispatch forces to secure state lands or escort vessels in the needed water.
The Economics Ministry says it manages stockpiles of fuel, which could be used in the event of a blockade. Taiwan has enough coal to last 30 days, and natural gas 11 days. Oil stored by state and private companies could last 140 days. But the vulnerability has also given impetus to Taiwan in boosting its green energy, such as solar power plants and wind farms, which currently only supply 6% of its electricity.
任何的武器、军事装备都没有办法阻止太阳升起来，没有办法阻止风吹进台湾。所以我们的再生能源包含太阳光电跟风电。 就是说，依照这些地球物理条件而产生的电能，事实上就不容易受军事的封锁。
The rising threat from China looms large, but just as Taiwan must rely on its own military to ensure its defense, it may also need to look inward to keep the power going. Andy Xue, Patrick Chen, Peachy Zhuang, and Rik Glauert for TaiwanPlus. Well, thank you for watching What's Up Taiwan. Please remember to download the TaiwanPlus app for more stories from Taiwan and around the world. Finally today, we leave you with images of the Museum of Islamic Art in Qatar. It's reopening its doors to the public for the first time in 18 months. I'm Rik Glauert, you'll take care now, and we'll see you next time.